and today I'm going to show you how to do a colored pencil drawing of a pansy. So go over the materials first. So colored pencils, of course, sharpener, need that, tape, varnish for the end, and then instead of working on paper, I work on mat board. It comes in a lot of different colors. I just like it because when I press hard, it doesn't wrinkle, and when you use paper, sometimes it goes like that. But you can use paper. Mat board just works better for me. Also chalk, or you can use transfer paper. That's just an easier step, but I'm going to show you how to make your own transfer paper with this chalk. So first, start out with a drawing. What I like to do is I like to photocopy my drawing, that way I can keep it, because when I trace over it for the transfer, it kind of ruins the original drawing. So to make a transfer, this is just white chalk, and I'll rub the back of the drawing with the chalk. And then flip it over, line it up with the paper however I like, and use the tape to stick it to the mat board. I like to just use 2 nice long hinges on the top. That way when I'm tracing, I can lift it up to check it to see how it's working. Sometimes I'll use a colored pencil to transfer, so that way I can see how it's transferring. So, show you a little bit. So trace over the drawing, and you can just barely see a faint outline here. So you'll just go over the whole drawing just to get it transferred onto the mat board. If you do your drawing on the mat board, sometimes what happens is if you make a mistake and you erase, you get indents in the mat board, and then when you're coloring, it makes it more difficult to have a tidy drawing at the end. So here is one that I already traced over. So you can see it's just nice white chalk outline. And so we'll start using the colored pencils. So here's my reference photo, a couple different kinds of pansies. So I'm going to be using this one as a reference. So what I like to do first is just make the drawing a little sharper, because sometimes the transfer is very rough. So I'm just going to gently, not pressing hard, put in the darkest areas of the pansy where it's black. So again, not pressing hard, just kind of crisping up the outline, fixing the drawing as I go. Gonna put that in nice and dark too. Now, one of the downsides of colored pencil is it's very difficult to erase. So when in doubt, you can always go slow. There are erasers you can use, but they don't really work that well. And you can go over things, so you can fix it, but it's better to just be careful from the beginning. So I'm just putting in the darkest areas. All right, so that's all pretty much the blacks. Next, I'm going to put in the lightest colors. So the yellow is the lightest. If I put yellow straight on the gray, the yellow is a little bit translucent. So I like to punch it up with some white first, so it gets a nice little base to work in. So any place that's yellow, I'm going to lay in some white, again gently, not pressing too hard, because once you start pressing hard, it gets more difficult to layer the colored pencil on there. So just the brightest parts of the yellow. I'll leave the other parts that aren't as bright. And then here on the edge, I might punch up the edge. And here I'm pressing really hard with the white, because I want to save this really thin yellow outline. Okay, now I can start adding a little more light here. Now here with the yellow, we can actually start pressing hard, and that's what's going to lock it in. So anywhere was that I put in the white underneath For the yellow, I'm gonna press hard. And it's okay to go into some of this black here, it's not gonna go anywhere. Anywhere that I didn't put in the white, I'm not gonna use the yellow just yet. All right, so the parts of the yellow that are not going to be light, I'm actually gonna use a slightly more orangey, darker yellow. And again, pressing hard, just kind of putting it in there. And when you press hard, it really helps blend too. So here I'll add a few more stripes. Like a little bit of that orange color here. Now we're going to start on the top purple there. So I want to do an undercoat of red because it kind of has a reddish color. So not pressing hard, just gently. And an easy way of shading so that it stays tidy is to do an outline. I call it making a playpen. So that way you have like a little place to kind of shade in. And when you're shading, you want to kind of shade as much in one direction as possible. That will keep your strokes even. All right. Got some purple. Might want to sharpen it a little bit. This is a cool sharpener. It's a 2-point sharpener. So it has the same size hole, but it will give you a long point. So the first hole sharpens the wood away, and then when you want to point, you then do the second one. But any sharpener will do. So then I'm now going to gently lay in the purple so that it's not all red. Doing gentle swirling, not pressing hard yet. And I find swirling helps it blend a little bit. Okay. Now this is a colored pencil. It's called a colorless blender. It has no color in it. So it's perfect for blending because you can't blend with your finger with colored pencil. So I like to have a scrap piece of paper to clean it because it gets a little dirty. All right. So we'll do the red first, and here I am now pressing hard. So I did the red and the purple lightly, and now I'm pressing it into the panel. Okay. If you don't have a colorless blender, you can use a white pencil to blend, but it will make things lighter. So if you're doing a section that you want to be a particular tone, just make it darker first, and that will help make the white pencil work better. You can also blend with any other color. So like if you're doing green leaves, you can get it a little bit darker than you think it should be, and then go over it with a different type of green, and that will also blend it. I just like the colorless blender because then I can kind of make my tones where I want them to be and then blend them in. So now I'm going to start pressing in black here for the dark part of the pansy. And I'm not going to worry so much about the little stringy bits that are at the end of each of these shapes. I'll draw those in carefully toward the end. I just want to have the main shape pressed in pretty dark. And so now we'll start laying in the pot. So the same way with the light area in the yellow, the light areas of the pot I'm going to put in with white. And here on the rim, I'm going to still add in a little bit of white, but not a lot. And let it fade out. And then here where it's lighter on the edge here, it doesn't go over too far. So I'll just give myself a playpen and then shade that in as well. So for the pot, I'm going to use kind of a lighter brown and a darker brown and the colorless blender, maybe a little bit of black for the cracks. But first I'm going to put the lighter brown everywhere, even over the white that I put in. And you'll see that even though I'm going over the chalk lines with this, they still want to stay in, because when I did the transfer, I pressed hard, and so that kind of made a little ridge, a little valley for the chalk to hang out in. So you'll still keep your drawing even if you go over it. So at this stage, you don't want to press too hard. So once you get that base shaded in, now I'm going to do some of the shadows that are on the pot. Now I'm going to press hard over that white line because I don't want any white to be there. Should all be shadow. All right, once I have that covered, now I can start doing the shadows. So it's very shadowy on this side of the pot since we have the light coming from that direction. So again, still shading gently. I can even do the line underneath the pot. But again, not pressing too hard because I'm going to be tidying it up at the end. And there'll be a little bit on this side of the pot too. And then the shadows here. All right. Now I'm going back to my middle tone, and this is where I'm going to start to press hard. I'll start in the shadows. And I'll press harder in the shadows and then start to go a little gentler as I go to the light. And again, it's a dirty terracotta pot, so don't worry about having your strokes go in the same direction at this point. And I'll do the same thing for the lower part of the pot. And so this brown pencil is kind of working as a blender. It's kind of smoothing out all that darkness. Here I'm being a little more gentle because I don't want to totally cover up that white pencil that I put in. We'll go back to the pot in a little bit, but now we're going to start to lay in the leaves just so that we have the green going. So I always like to start with the shadows, so I'm going to do the darkest leaves first with this dark green and pressing hard because the shadows will be pretty flat, not have a lot of texture. So I can just press hard straight from the beginning. And can even add a little bit in the black, covering up some of that white line that I put in from my transfer. And cover up some of that black underneath the flower. Now I'll get my light green and color in the remaining leaves. We'll be adding highlights on them later. And you can go over your shadows without being careful, pressing hard, because they're not going anywhere. And then any spots that I didn't fill in up here, I'll now shade. So I don't want those white outlines. Okay, go back in with some white and tidy up some of the outer edges of this pansy. Pressing hard. Maybe darken up the shadow. So you can see that the outer edges of the flower are kind of rough, but that's okay because we're actually going to be doing the background too. I like to pick a colored pencil that's really close in color to whatever the background color is, so that way I don't have to press as hard, and if I miss a spot, no one's gonna know. So again, I'm gonna make a little outline, and I can actually start to cut into some of this yellow to make it even skinnier. Pressing hard. I'm only gonna go part way down. You get kind of even. So I'm laying in the background all in one direction as much as possible, pressing really hard and almost like a scanner so that you're not leaving any gaps anywhere. Sometimes it's easier for me to tip it sideways to go faster. And then might have it be a little bit lighter on the table. So this is just a lighter color. Just gonna do it lighter, like not pressing as hard as I did on the top, because I'm actually gonna do some blending. Okay, so now I got this lighter base. I can still use the same gray I used down here, and it'll blend with what's there. So again, I'm using this pencil to blend. So I will be pressing hard now. And I'm doing little swirls because I find swirls, you know, like this kind of movement ends up blending it better than sideways. Tidy up the edge. And with the colorless blender, I can do another blend down here, going in one direction. I just like to have the floor be a slightly different color than what's behind the flower, otherwise it looks like a space flower floating in space. All right, and we'll do the little center part of the flower, and a little white. Little bit of brown. And now we're going to tidy up the little lines. Because you can always do the detail at the end. Then it's less likely to get smeared when you're doing other work. Add some highlights on the leaves. And then some darker shadows on the pot in just a few places. Then we'll do specular highlights, and that'll be pretty much done. All right. Now we'll do some specular highlights. If you have a white pen, like a white gel pen, this really makes things pop. You don't need it, I just like it. So any place that is gonna be like a rim of a petal, it'll just really start to pop out a little bit. And you don't want to put it everywhere, otherwise it'll actually flatten things. You just want to put it in a few places. Maybe we'll put a little bit on a leaf. A little bit of white here. And don't forget to sign your piece. Again, you can use colored pencil, whatever color you want. The pointier it is, the better it'll work. And then the last thing to do is you can use a spray varnish to seal it, because colored pencil, if you don't seal it, it gets what's called wax bloom, and it's where all your darks actually turn milky, so they get foggy. So if you don't have varnish or workable fixative, in a pinch you can use hairspray, because what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to just not let oxygen, which is in the air around us, bind with your drawing. But anyway, so there you have a little pansy drawing, and you don't have to just limit it to pansies. I mean, it's like, this one I had to press really hard with a lot of black to do some lilies. But yeah, you just, any flower, you can experiment with like different color mat boards. You can use bright ones. You can even use white if you like, and just have fun. So thank you for watching.